On today's show, it is part 2 of 2 with myself and Tyler Jones, a fan favorite of the program, and always fun to talk to Tyler. We'll have that full conversation coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1592 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday evening into Monday. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you're a new customer, get $100 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 coming to you if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And also want to say at the top of the podcast, make it your first listen each and every day. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, and please subscribe now on places like Apple and Spotify and YouTube. And today's show is part 2 of 2 with myself and Tyler Jones. If you missed part 1, I recommend strongly starting with the top of this podcast on your platform of choice. But if you already finished part 1, here we are with part 2, talking all things Hawks. And without any further delay, here we go, myself and Tyler, and part 2. Can we do 5 minutes on Trey? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with doing 5 minutes on Trey?
Yeah. Because
I mentioned it before, but the negativity is actually, this is new. I feel like this last couple weeks, and again, this is my experience on social media and email and everything else. I think this is probably the nadir of local fan feeling about Trey Young in my experience so far. Now, it's kind of crazy. I think he's actually gotten more hate in the last 2 weeks or so than he got during the Miami series, when he literally had the worst series of any superstar of all time, you could argue. And he didn't get as much hate as he's gotten recently. And it's like, wait, that was a much bigger deal. But I'm not asking you. I mean, you already said you weren't worried. I'm not either. But for people that are,
he's not, Brad. He's not shooting well, but that doesn't mean he's not. He's still playing well. Like he's still playing at a high level.
Wait, are you allowed to play well when you don't shoot well? Is that a thing
that
can happen?
People would be surprised that Trey's shooting percentages don't often reflect how good he is on the floor.
The other day was a great example. The day after his child was born, and he was clearly gassed. And he had 17 assists and 3 turnovers or whatever it was, and actually played very well. And then Friday, they were weren't they plus 10 with him and minus 22 without him? And it was like
he was good. He was good on Friday.
Pretty good on Friday. He just didn't shoot.
He
just didn't shoot well. And by the way, I know you mentioned it earlier once, but just to kind of back that up with evidence. So EPM is I think it's the best all-in-one metric. Doesn't mean it's the perfect always, but it finally got refreshed for this year over the weekend. And Trey was number 1 on the Hawks. And I think our mutual friend, Grant Shirley, great Twitter follow, put that out there, and Hawks fans got mad at him. And it's it's not his fault. And also, I still think Trey's been their best player. Which is it's kind of a crazy thing to say because he shot so poorly, but the numbers are what they are.
He's top 5 in free throws attempted or something top 5 in free throws made. He's still getting to the line. He's getting to the line, and he's getting to his passes, and he's just not making his. Honestly, he's not making floaters and threes. That's it. Yeah, that's what's killing him. His floater game's off for whatever reason. Part of it, I think he's just missing. I don't know what's going on with that with the floaters, but the threes, that's just Trey. The 3-pointer just comes and goes, unfortunately for him.
And it's limited.
And it's tough. It's tough because he has a lower release, and so he's hesitant to take contested threes, spot up 3-pointers.
Well, he'll get him blocked sometimes, and it's funny. I had someone picking on me the other day about how I always say that I want Trey to shoot more threes. Look, he's shooting 28%. Why do you want to take? I still want him to take more threes. Sorry, I do.
To me, Brad, I thought he was getting there because before the baby was born, he shot 15 threes and 11 threes back games. I thought he was kind of pushing towards getting to his 3-pointer more, but these last couple of games it's kind of been a little bit of aggression on that front. Even though he shot 6 threes against the Sixers, which still isn't enough. He's got to push to the 10 range. I mean, that's just the reality for somebody his size. If he wants to. He's got to take more threes, and he's got to find a way to get to more threes. The
good thing is Yeah, the good thing is, you mentioned it too, but just to put a number on that too, he actually has a career high free throw rate right now. And Trey's always been a super high free throw guy, but it's career best. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think he knows when he doesn't quote unquote have it, and he gets to the line even more.
But I think honestly, Brad, I think he's more getting to the line more because the offense is better.
Well, certainly
the offense is better, and the driving lanes are easier.
Yes.
He's just not. He's literally just not making the shots. But
I agree.
Yes. The opportunities to drive and have these advantages are there for him, and he's just getting to the foul line. Like, he's not taking the three; he's pump faking, getting and drawing the foul, and getting to the free throw line. Like, he's
and it's more space. I mean, it's something we talked about last year a lot, maybe even 2 years ago, but especially last year, about how you make Trey's life a lot harder when you don't surround him with enough shooting. And I was screaming this last year all year long. They didn't have enough shooting, and they weren't taking enough threes and all that stuff. And like, I know they're not shooting the lights out this year, but simply the act of taking more threes gives Trey more space. Playing lineups that have more shooting on the floor gives Trey more space, and having more off-ball movement gives Trey more space. All those things are happening, and it's just that he hasn't made his shots to keep up with it. But all the other underlying metrics, including the all-in-ones like EPM, the way the Hawks play offense with him on the court, which, for some guys, I don't give them a ton of credit for like their personal on-offs on offense. But when you're Trey Young, I do think that Trey's presence is generally going to be a big part of what the offense does. Yep. So anyway, I'm not worried either. But while you're here, I wanted to ask you.
He's in a shooting slump. He's going to have a month where he's like player of the month level good.
I tend to agree. And the 3-point shooting, I will say, I understand a little bit more worry about that because Trey's only had one season in his career where he has been an above average 3-point shooter on percentage. Now, he takes difficult shots. I'm just giving you the full context. You and I agree on, I know why you're reacting that way, because I'm on your side. I'm just saying last year he shot 33% from three. Like, I don't think people should expect Trey to shoot 38% from three. I think that is probably the outlier, which is 2 years ago. Is he going to shoot 28%? No, he's not going to shoot 28% from three. But I do think that like it's reasonable to expect him to shoot in the low to mid 30s. That's not crazy at all. Just keep that in mind. The floater stuff he's going to make. I mean, he's had one of the best floaters in the league, and he just suddenly can't make a floater. And like, I don't think that's going to continue. That's my guess, but that's where I am on that front. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, he's going to start making shots, and
he will.
Hawks fans are going to love it. I don't get.
We're back, baby.
With Hawks fans in particular, I'm like somebody mentioned, like, should I be worried about Trey? And I was like, if you're worried, go rewatch Game 5 of the Celtics Hawks game.
Yeah,
like,
and look,
go rewatch that and don't.
Perhaps there's always if you want to have a super big picture conversation about like how easy or how difficult it is to build a title contending team with Trey Young, like, sure, you can have that conversation, but it's the same conversation you've already should have been having for years before. Like, nothing's changed on that front. Like, yeah, it's a challenge.
But in general, he's a better jump shooter than what he's shown. Like, I agree. It's not just he's missing wide open threes too. Like, he's just missing wide open three. He's missing wide open like mid rangers that he's creating with like 8 feet of space. He's just missing shots.
I found this. You might imagine. I found that trying to explain variance to people on the internet about sports does not usually go very well. It's even worse in baseball, which I cover on a regular basis. If people just cannot they can't take it with baseball.
Imagine being a Bills fan right now and like trying to explain to your fans that we're still a good football team. We're just turning the ball over. Like, we're losing every fumble. It just happens. Like, some teams have a season where dumb stuff just happens to us. We're still a good football team.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into the action this NFL or NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're a new customer, get $150 in bonus bets right now with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Beyond the awesome and really exciting perks of signing up right now at FanDuel, they have everything you're looking for across the sports betting space. They have point spreads and over-unders and money lines, player props, future bets, same-game parlays, live betting. It's all there for you at FanDuel, and the app is safe and secure. They cover the entire range of sports as well. They have the NFL and college football, NBA, WNBA, college basketball. They have MLB when season's happening, of course, golf and tennis and soccer and auto racing, boxing, MMA. It's all there for you at FanDuel. They also have tons of options involving the Hawks, including a big game on Tuesday against the Indiana Pacers. They have pregame lines and over-unders and player props, etc. for that. Plus, when the game starts, they have live betting as well. And now is the best possible time to join up with the folks at FanDuel. It's FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. Check out the official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network with an offer that you absolutely do not want to miss. That is FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Cleaning the Glass does this. They do great stats over there. They take out garbage time. They take out some of the noise in all the stats. And right now, they have the Hawks at a plus 3.7 net rating for the season. You shouldn't be 6-6 when that's your net rating.
Yeah,
so basically that tells you that through 12 games, the team quality is better than 6-6. It's closer to 8-4 than it is to 6-6. So like if they had won one of those, if they had won one of those close games and they're 7-5, how much different people feel? I don't know. But like, I feel like big picture, they're better than this. They just are.
I'm gonna bring up the Knicks again. The Knicks shot 16 of 34 for three. 16 of 34.
I read the stats. It was like they're 46% in the two games against the Hawks and like 34 against everybody else.
Brett, they have not made a shot against anybody else. They're the worst shooting team in the NBA. And it's not like they weren't challenged. They made every contested They always make, again, it's the Knicks Super Bowl. I understand. Does Julius Randle not get up for these Hawks games? He's got something to prove against the Hawks.
Randle's so funny because he's been so good.
He's so good against the Hawks.
It was before the game the other day. I tweeted out that, hey, Randle has his best numbers against the Hawks of any team in the league. But then he also had like the worst playoff series ever against the Hawks in that series a couple years ago.
He makes every contested horrendous shot against the Hawks. It's very.
He hit one the other night. Yeah, Wednesday he hit one that was like a 4 fake standstill, 0 rhythm, like fadeaway over bogey, and he made it. And I was like, if that goes in, like, what are you supposed to do? Like,
Brad, do you remember the game where he had 45 against the Hawks, and like John Collins was literally draped over him the entire game? He just made every step back 3-pointer. I'm like, this dude, I just got to tip the cap in the regular season.
That is what it is.
He's incredible against the Hawks. Playoffs are a different story.
Yeah, so I brought that up just to say, like,
but then also against the Sixers, I'm like, 13 offensive rebounds isn't that much, but 28 second chance points off 13 offensive.
And I was yelling.
Never happen again.
And like their first shot defense in that game was actually pretty good. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, they got beat on the offensive glass, and I was actually going to ask you about the defensive rebounding, but we use this as a bridge to that. But the variance on that, like to give up more than 2 points for every time you get off offensive rebound, that's not supposed to happen. That means Philly made every shot they basically took the entire night as a second chance play, including a couple of threes. Like, that's
won comfortably.
That's a variance. That's a variance stat. It's just
the Hawks defense. The Hawks defense wasn't like the Hawks defense has actually been pretty good outside of these defensive rebounds they're giving up right now.
So defensive rebounding,
it's the new scheme, like we talked about.
I was going to say it's partly scheme. It's partly the fact that, and I know people don't want to hear this either, but they've played basically all the best offensive rebounding teams in the league so far. The Knicks are number one by a lot.
They really have.
The Knicks are number one in the league. Number one in the league. Mitchell Robinson's number one by a million individually. They played them twice in 12 games. So that's 1/6 of their schedule is the Knicks, who again are great on the offensive glass. Orlando is top 5. Philly is like top 8. Charlotte's up near the top of the league. Like, I'm not saying that's all of it.
I think
the Pelicans are up there too. They always are.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not saying that's all of it, but that's a lot of it. They're playing teams that are monsters on the glass. And yeah, I don't think this team's gonna be great on the defensive glass with the way that they're playing because of the scheme stuff, because they're still small in the backcourt, although DeJounte is a pretty good rebounder, generally speaking. Hunter's a bad rebounder. Bay's a bad rebounder. Okongwu is not a good center rebounder, all that stuff. Like, and yeah, Clint's not been quite as dominant as usual on the defensive glass, but he's playing 30 feet from the basket a lot now. And it's not quite the same situation. So I don't think it's going to be a disaster, but like
Clint gave up some defensive rebounds.
No,
Mitchell Robinson.
He was not good in that game. And even I acknowledge he was not good against the Knicks. He was not. Mitchell Robinson, again, though, is like, I pulled this earlier today. Mitchell Robinson right now has a 21% offensive rebound rate. Last year, the league leader was Mitchell Robinson at like 17%. So Clint was number 2 in the league last year. It was like 15%. So like Mitchell Robinson is like doing historic like Bill Russell junk right now in offensive glass.
Yeah, and that's not going to continue.
It won't. But and look,
82. And honestly, it didn't continue in that game against the Hawks either. Like
no,
there's like
he was getting tips and things. And look, I think it's a combination of scheme. Yes, when you have your center out further, it's harder to rebound, and also you're playing against great offensive rebound teams all the time. And also some variance. And they look, hey, broken record, they need more on the glass from their small forwards. Hunter and Bay got to rebound. Jalen's been really good on the glass. Like he's replaced John on the glass. He's done exactly what he needed to do there. Clint is still Clint. He's still going to be really good on the glass.
But Jalen and John never played together. So it's like what they've lost, what this current team has lost is the
backup
the
four.
Jalen bench minutes, right?
The backup four.
They've literally lost the
and they're just playing. They're just playing
now.
smaller, so it's a small sample size. But once Hunter got, as we discussed earlier, ejected the other night, they suddenly had to play either really small, or you're playing Bay and Jalen all those minutes, and they can't play all those minutes together. And it's not a coincidence to me that Tobias Harris starts going nuts when he's being guarded by someone not named DeAndre Hunter. And I'm not saying Hunter's this lockdown guy, but they missed DeAndre Hunter in the second half of that game defensively. They just did.
It was like Tobias was just getting mismatched. He was just,
he's dealing with Bogey, he's dealing with Murray,
Wes Matthews.
Yeah, I mean,
Murray,
guys, he's bigger than.
He's
It's just what it is.
Work. Yeah, that's something that hadn't happened at all.
And they got to rebound better, no question about that. But I don't think this is a bad rebounding team. I think there's a lot of noise in that number, but that is partly why they've lost a couple of games. So, I mean, I'm not trying to downplay. I'm not saying this team's going to be a number 1 seed or anything either. Like, I never was there on this team, but I do believe that they are better than 6-6 would tell you that they are at this moment in time. Does that sound reasonable to you as a more invested Hawks fan?
Look, pull the pitchforks away, guys. Like it's not over yet. There's like 70 games left to go in the season or something like that. So there's plenty of time. They're going to have these. What I'm going to say is the schedule is going to get easier for them because they're not going to go up against such behemoth teams anymore. Like they're getting all the biggest teams out the way now. Now they get to this.
Well, let's say the next 3, as we sort of end the podcast. Next 3, Indiana, who can't defend anyone on Tuesday. Now, great, they're really good on offense, no question about that. They're not a great defensive team. Brooklyn on Wednesday. Brooklyn's not very big up front. And then Washington on Saturday. And Washington's awful. So these 3 games, fairly friendly. Now, it doesn't mean you have to sweep them, but but after that, you got to go to Boston and Cleveland. Those are not easy games. You got Milwaukee. Like it's not like you have an easy schedule, but you're playing teams that I think you probably match up better against, I should say. Indiana's going to be interesting, though. I mean, not to do a full Indiana preview, but that might be a 140 to 138 game. I don't know what's going to happen in that game. Indiana is not playing any defense, and they're running like crazy. And the Hawks are capable of running with them. By the way, they also lost by like 100 today. The Pacers. They brought
it back.
They cut it in the second half, but they were down like 40 to Orlando at home, and they got it back. I guess it was 12 by the end. But maybe there'll be a little bit a little juice extra from that one.
Well, it's the in-season tournament.
That was on my list. Do you care?
Biggest game. I care.
Do you care? You care. Okay, so you care.
I care. That's why I was so mad.
I got a lot of responses from Hawks fans, and it might just be that they lost the last game. But like, I don't care about this anyway. I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. You don't have to care. I just think that the team. How do I put this? I do think the teams care. I do. Do they care as much as Hawks as like fans maybe want them to care? Maybe not. But I think that basically the way Quinn's put it is kind of the way I would think. It's like they're playing. It's like he didn't say this part. It feels like it's like 10% more than a regular season game. You know what I mean? It's not a playoff game, but like they care a little bit more. Yeah, which is still enough. They're trying.
Differential actually matters.
All right, can we talk about the Jalen Johnson pull-up shot?
No, we're not doing that because you're wrong and I'm right.
I'm right about this. That was an awful. No, shot.
You're not. If he doesn't take that shot, he preserved the 2-for-1. They were able to win by 6 instead of 5.
2-for-1.
Yes, Brad.
The game wasn't over.
Shoot it quickly.
The game wasn't over yet. If they've been up by 10, sure, take it. They're up 5.
Brad, but they got it. It was like what, less than 40 seconds to go.
The best argument for that is just
reserve the 2-for-1, Brad. Come on.
The best argument for what he did is just the disrespect of the Detroit Pistons. Like just the flat out, like you know what, Detroit, you are not going to win this game anyway. So I'm shooting this shot.
Oh, so Brad, you don't want Jalen taking shots. You don't want Jalen taking confident shots anymore.
We just talked about this. I love when Jalen takes confident shots. It was just a very funny play. I will say it was more defensible in the tournament than it would have been otherwise. But it was not.
Well, yeah, he would have just ran the clock. He would not have had the ball with
that's true.
40 seconds to go.
That's 100% true. No, but okay. So just to lay it out for people, because I'm not sure if I'm recording between now and the game on Tuesday. The Hawks really need to win the game on Tuesday to have any chance. Like, there are some groups where 2-2 with like a super good point differential might get in. This is not one of them. Indiana, Philly's in there. They already lost to Philly, which was that was a big loss. Indiana's 2-0. So if the Hawks win, they actually have a pretty decent chance still. They're going to have to win in Cleveland, which is not an easy game by any means, but it's winnable. But if they lose, they're not mathematically done, but they're probably done if they lose on Tuesday. So if you care about the NCAA tournament, and they do, circle that one. It's at home too. Well,
they better win, and hopefully
they better win.
DeAndre doesn't get himself kicked out of the game that time.
Well, I also, I've seen maybe it's just Hawks fans. I've seen a lot of like Trey Young, Tyrese Halliburton rivalry talk from fans. Maybe that'll be interesting too. I don't know. I wasn't aware of that until recently, but I've seen some of the more prominent Hawks fans that I keep tabs on.
Everybody's better than
juice
Trey
there.
Young, Brad. Trey Young shooting like 15% from 3-pointer. Everybody's just better than Trey, right?
At least with Halliburton, I can I won't laugh it off in the way that I do with Jalen Brunson, which I find just preposterous. People still think he's better.
I mean, Jalen Brunson shoots like 80% from 3 against the Hawks, so he's clearly the better player.
Does. But anyway, it's a game that I'm circling on Tuesday. I'll be there. It'll be Indiana, man. They're fascinating. Shouts to Caitlin Cooper, who's one of the best people covering any single team in the league. She has to cover a team that would break my brain because they just don't play defense. It's remarkable to me, actually.
Well, I mean, you look at the lineup they throw out there. Like,
it's personnel.
They don't have no personnel.
And, it's Miles Turner and Prayer basically defensively. Aaron Nesmith's pretty good. Other than that, Halliburton's, by the way, awful defensively. Just want to throw it out there. He's really quite bad.
No, he's better than Trey though.
Ben Matherin's bad defender. Buddy Hield, bad defender. Obi Toppin, bad defender. That'll be interesting. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the largest DFS platform in North America and also the most easy and exciting way to play DFS. At PrizePicks, you pick 2-6 players, choose whether they actually have more or less than a certain number of points, rebounds, assists, etc. Wins 25 times the money on your entries. And with basketball season here, you're not going to pick out combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, which is a league created specially to have common projections that include 2 more players from different sports or leagues. They have a huge selection of sports and stat types not offered anywhere else at PrizePicks, and they're offered projections on the NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, and many more. And they also have a reboot policy. PrizePicks is the only DFS platform with an injury insurance policy of any kind. I've also really enjoyed checking out PrizePicks all year long. I'm digging there all the time during NFL season, NBA season, etc. I'm there in college basketball. It's all there for you at PrizePicks. And on the whole, the experience is fantastic and fun, and I highly recommend everyone checking it out right now. In fact, when you get there, PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA is the place to go. Use promo code LockedOnNBA for a first-time deposit match up to $100. One more time, that is PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA, and use that promo code LockedOnNBA. Check out Daily Fantasy Sports made easy with PrizePicks. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here? I appreciate you as always.
Not really. Is there anything? I'll just say this because it's early. Is there anything sticking out to you the season outside of the Hawks? Because like it weirdly feels other than the weirdness with the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they've kind of turned it.
They've kind of figured it out. I have not enjoyed the Adrian Griffin experience so far, but no, they figured it out a little bit. I've been fairly impressed with Orlando, especially doing what they're doing without Wendell Carter. That's been interesting to me.
And
they're
Chet Holmgren, yeah.
Chet's great, man. I mean, I've always loved Chet.
Oh my God! Chet. Like what a Brad. Me and you were talking about this for years about Chet Holmgren before he came to the NBA.
We were very in on Chet.
I don't get it. He's the great white hope.
He's very good.
And like nobody. I grew up with Kevin Love. being the guy for 2 years at UCLA. Chet Holmgren's so much better.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, but he gets no juice.
Chet
He's skinny.
Well, it's okay.
I don't get it. He's got too much dog. Like Chet got too much dog. Like he does not back down.
He does have some dog.
Anybody. And like
for a guy who's like 190, he has a lot of juice.
I mean, he's been better. He's been way better than Wembanyama. And like,
by the way, as we're recording this podcast, the Thunder are up by 33 at halftime in Portland. They're really good. Portland's awful, but that's still notable.
I mean, Chet destroyed the Hawks when they played. Like they couldn't do anything.
He did play very well. That's one I'd throw out there. The Kings, after they started poorly, have won 6 in a row, and that's something the Hawks fans are keeping an eye on because of the draft pick, which I think probably will convey, if I had to guess at this point.
Miss Kevin Huerter.
I also do. The Clippers finally won a game the other night. What else? Oh, Memphis. Let's end here because that's your other hometown team, baby. The Grizzlies are just in shambles. What's going on with the Grizzlies right now? What's happening with the Grizzlies?
I mean, I found it a little weird that people were optimistic about the Grizzlies.
I was.
Into the season.
Raise my hand. I was.
I'm like, man, they let go a lot of their good players. And like everybody didn't like Dillon Brooks. I'm like, me and my coworker at my new job were like the biggest Dillon Brooks is actually good for the Grizzlies. Like people, maybe in the entire world. But I kept trying to tell you, I was like, the Hawks should get Dillon Brooks, man. I'm like, Hawks should get Dillon Brooks. The Grizzlies miss him. They miss his intensity on defense. He was a culture setter. And they just let him walk for nothing. They replaced him with Marcus Smart. Like, Marcus Smart's going to bring the culture.
Not only did they let him go for nothing, they leaked it to a national reporter that he would not come back under any circumstances. That happened.
Brad, Marcus Smart routinely was consistently the worst player on the Celtics all the time. Every time Marcus Smart did anything with the ball in his hands, I was excited for the Hawks because it wasn't one of their good players. Marcus Smart is a fine NBA player, but like he's smaller than Dillon Brooks, and quite frankly, like he does too much with the ball in his hands. Like he's not a point guard, but he's point guard size. And so now they're running these lineups, these small backcourts. They got Jaren Jackson Jr. without his anchor and Steven Adams, so that just immediately makes him trash. He's not trash, but like he can't grab. Jaren without Steven Adams isn't somebody I particularly think is like notable player, just because like Steven Adams did the dirty work for him, and Jaren's just not that guy. Like he's just not that guy.
They do miss Steven Adams quite a bit. Steven Adams,
but look all the time. DeAnthony Melton, they let go. Grayson Allen, they let go to Reese, either, which I forget which Jones brother, it was a Trey or Tyus, let him go.
Nice.
And it's like you replace these guys with what? They didn't replace the talent they let go. And meanwhile, Josh, he's locked up like Jim Harbaugh. So like what are you gonna do?
Political prisoner Jim Harbaugh. That's what I'm talking about. All right. He's locked up like Jim Harbaugh. Oh, I wasn't ready for that. Okay. Well, we'll circle back on Memphis at another time. But so the Hawks are 6-6. They could be better than that. We agree. We're both feeling, I think, pretty good based on this conversation. Tyler, what else can people follow from you? And of course, please plug any new recommendations that you may have for folks who may be tuning into the end of the podcast. I heard from someone the other day that listens to the end explicitly for your recommendation. So,
well, all right. So you can follow me Jonesy2X4 on X. And
your X is up.
X, and then on Blue Sky, I think I'm a Nazi 2X4. I can't remember. It's either that or Jonesy.
I've gotta look at my Blue Sky more. I have one.
I'm semi on Blue. I'm posting more on Bluey. So that's where you could find most of my takes on both of those sites. But like what I'm watching right now, it's Pluto on Netflix, and like I recommend Pluto to everybody. It's a classic. It's a retelling of a story arc of Astro Boy. If you don't, Brad, you probably never heard of Astro Boy. That just shows how uncultured you are, because Astro Boy is like old, like 60s old. But this is like a reimagining of one of their story arcs. And it's it was for the time when it came out around 2003. Like it was one of the greatest pieces of like manga you could get your hands on. So like it's got an anime. I can't recommend that enough. Then also other recommendations, Freyrin on Crunchyroll, which everybody knew was going to be great. It's been better than even I could expected based on the manga. Like it's incredible. Highest recommendation. And then the Apothecary Diaries, like that's my personal favorite. Like that's my personal favorite on the season. I really enjoy. It's like House. It's kind of like House, but
Okay.
you know Sherlock Holmes. House.
Yep.
It's a medical. It's not really a medical drama, but it kind of is. But it's like 18th, 19th century China, and like it's kind of a historical fiction. I would say probably there's no fantastical elements about it. It's more grounded, but it's very grounded. It's very realistic of circumstances, though. They play with liberties a little bit just to be more entertaining. But it's great stuff, and I'm enjoying that the most this season. But those are my 3 recs, and
there it is.
Like I said, man, free Jim Harbaugh, man, free him.
Political prisoner Jim Harbaugh. Big week for that, but I will save my thoughts on Michigan football.
Go Big Blue, man. Brad, why they got Jim locked up like this, man? What he do? He ain't steal no signs. Like what? Come on, man. Like who ain't stealing signs?
I can't do this with you right now. All right, so that'll be it for today's podcast. Tyler, thank you for being here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this conversation. As always, please subscribe to the pod. Follow Tyler's work as he, I'm sure, will melt down at Click Capella at some point on Tuesday on Twitter, at least.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
I'm just
Clint's
saying.
a good player. I should probably.
You heard it here first, folks. Clint's a good player.
I should probably put a sticky somewhere like Clint's a good player.
It's a good player.
My tweets are just my frustrations in the moment, and I will have them.
I think one day when I get Clint one-on-one, I might just be like, hey, I'm going to show Clint your Twitter page. I'm like, hey, Clint.
Clint has every reason to hate me, and I don't understand it because, like, he's an actually good basketball. Like, he's a good basketball player. He's like, who's this dumb bleep?
That's all right.
So
No, Clint's a good dude. He would get it too. Okay. All that said, please subscribe to the podcast. Follow Tyler's stuff across social media platforms and his recommendations, and we'll see you all next time.